Hello guys, we are discussing interview questions, technical interview questions based on C++. So in today's session, we are discussing an interview question, that is, what are inline functions in C++. So this interview is for fresh graduate engineer, 1 or 2 years experience guy who is looking for a better positions. So if you appear for any such technical interview, there are chances that it may check your C++ knowledge through this question. So let's understand what are inline functions and then how in a nutshell you can answer during the interview that I'll. So be with me till the end and complete the concept. Primarily, inline functions are those which can call, gets, expands at the call itself. This is just a definition. We'll understand what actually it is with the help of one real life example. The real life example is, say you are at home. You are at home and you are at home and you are hungry. You are you are feeling hungry in afternoon. So you want to buy, you want to get a pack of Maggie. Then there are two options for you. One is just 5 meters away, 5 meters away, a supermarket is there. Supermarket that you find 5 meters away it is, and let's say the cost of Maggie is rupees 50. Fine, this is the one scenario. And there is another option available at 5 kilometer away from house or home. There is one shop. He is somewhat kind of wholesaler, or you can even relate to our mart, where you can get it at rupees 40. So what is, you if you are intelligent, what do you say? Let me not waste time in saving only 10 rupees. So what you will decide? If you are a smart, if you are an idiot, you may go for this second option, but in reality you will be spending more. So you are, let's say you are smart. So what you did now? You are a smart. You you went to the nearest supermarket and bought 50. Why? Here you spent little money. You spent little money, but you saved a lot of time. Saved a lot of. So this is exactly the concept of inline function. So this, you are aware functions. Why we write functions primarily to save memory. To save memory. How actually we do so? We save lot of memory, good amount of memory, lot of memory we save by spending little amount. By we spend some time there, because when we call a normal function, I'll show you in the next slide how, if a normal function is called, the time is spent, and if the inline function is called, how. Let's say, understand first, functions save memory. So to save a lot of memory, what we do, we spend some time. Now if you have a task in your hand, the task is of only 1 or 2 lines, 1 or 2 lines of code. So when you write function for 1 or 2 lines of code, hardly you are saving memory. When you have 1 or 2 lines of code and if you define a function for it, hardly you will be saving the amount of memory. And the time spent will be same. Whatever time we spend for storing return address, for stacks, arguments to stack, that will be same. But the amount of memory you saved will be very less, meager. So if large code is there, if there is a large code, very large code, then that for that if you write a function, you will be saving lot of memory and by spending some amount. If the task is very small, you should not define a normal. Say in this slide, what I did here, in this slide, this is just a moment. This is our non-inline function, the non-inline wide display. This is hardly one line of code. If I am using a function for it, hardly I am saving any memory, hardly I am saving any memory, but I'm spending good amount of time in, because why the amount the time is spent here, because when the function is called, say here the function is called, so the control jumps to the function body. When it jumps to the function body, it saves return address, it saves arguments to the stack. In doing so, it spends some time. That's why normal function takes some time for execution. But we are saying large amount of memory, that's why it's okay, it's fine. But for a very small code, if I write like this, here I'll be saving very meager amount of memory, but I'm spending a lot of time. That's why you have to do a trade-off here. Trade-off you have to do. What is that trade-off? One or two lines of code, go for inline. Why? The time will not be wasted. Hardly any amount of memory is wasted. That's okay. That is manageable. But the time will be less, faster. If there is a larger code, then you will be saving good amount of memory by writing a normal function. Normal, or you can call it as a non-inline function. If you write non-inline, large amount of memory, substantial amount of memory you will be saving by spending little amount. That's okay, that's fine. This is how the inline functions are important when you have to write a code for one or two lines, when you have to write a function for a code with one or two lines. So now how to write an inline function? It is simply using the keyword line. You have to add the keyword, make the function definition proceed with the keyword inline. That function will become inline. And the compiler, what the compiler does here at the time of compilation, the compiler replaces this call with definition. Whatever definition we have here, this definition will get come here. That's why we say when an inline function call, it gets expands at the call itself. That's how the control will not jump, so there will be no overhead of return address, saving the arguments, and the code will run faster. This will happen at compile time. So you have to add the keyword inline for that. Now the question is that if I make a large code, say some large code function with a large code I have, some function I have with large code, and I'll make foolishly inline. If I make foolishly inline, what I am doing, I am expanding at the call. This is how my executable code is increasing, size is increasing. That is not a good thing. So for this reason, inline, the language C++ has kept inline as simply a request. It is not a command. It is not a. Now for this large code, large function, I have made inline. Now the compiler cleverly decides whether to make it inline or not. So it will ignore, if the code is large, it will ignore your inline and make it non-inline. So that's why inline is simply a request to the compiler. It's not a command. I hope the concept is clear. Related to this Inline, we may have some more questions. Let's see. What is the difference between inline and macro functions? Macro we find in C. Normally macros using hash define, we use the keyword hash define. Using this we do the function, the purpose will be same, but here type checking will not be there. Here type checking at the time of compile is not possible with macros, but with inline type checking is possible. This is how inline functions are more preferred and better version to use instead of macros. Can an inline function be recursive? No. We should avoid making a recursive function inline because recursive function internally uses stack and lot of overhead is there. Normally the recursive functions are not one or two lines of code. They have return statements in the function. Normally functions with return statement are avoided for inline. They are not good candidates for inline. So why can the compiler ignore the inline keyword? Why it can ignore? Because inline is simply a request. Request can be ignored. If it were a command, the compiler could not have ignored. Are functions defined inside a class automatically inline? This is related to classes. So in a class, when we define something, say class employee, if I define some function over here, that all those functions definitions, all those functions are by default inline. By default they are inline. There is no need to use the keyword inline. By default they are inline. But again, if the member functions are large enough, then it is not good thing. That's why making use of resolution operator, scope resolution operator, we define the member functions outside, and this is how we make them non-inline. Are functions defined inside a class automatically? That's what I answered now. When should inline functions be avoided? So when the function has a return statement, then you should avoid. If it has a loop, you should avoid. If it has any larger code, you can say if it is beyond, we can give a thumb rule beyond 2 lines. If you have a code, then you should avoid making it inline. Hope the concept is clear and the interview question is clear to you. So to the interviewer, you can say inline functions are those which when called gets expands at the call itself. The compiler during compilation replaces the call with the definition. This is how they expands there. So it is a good practice to have inline function for 1 or 2 lines of code, but for larger code it should be avoided. Inline is a keyword and it's merely a request, not a command. The compiler can ignore your request. So thank you for watching.